This is our first segment in our discussion of television progress and problems from American media history. You wouldn't be surprised, I suppose, to find out that David Sarnoff was around at the beginning, almost the beginning, of television in the United States. You know by now that he was a real mover and shaker when it came to radio, and he moved that same sort of vision and energy into television. But let's back up and see what kinds of inventions had to be made before television could become popular in the United States. So we can go all the way back to 1880. A Frenchman, Maurice Leblanc, outlined 5 functions that would be required for television, and he created a scanning mechanism that capitalized on the eye, the retina's finite capacity to temporarily retain an image. So remember when all the way back when we were talking about film and the need to understand that little short period of time when we keep an image in our brain? Well, that's the same sort of thing that we're talking about now. Paul Nipkow was a German who created a method of scanning for Leblanc's method. Nipkow was a genius. He was, however, discouraged. He couldn't really find anybody who would work with him and back him, and he almost gave up. Later on, though, of course, the fatherland became very proud of him, and he eventually took out a patent for a spinning disc that would become the basis for the first television system. Between 1890 and 1920, scientists all over the world were making attempts to perfect the television set on the basis of Nipkow's invention. So in Britain, America, Russia, and German, people wanted to get this thing to work. A Scot, interesting enough, John L. Baird, was the most successful. He was a bit of a character. He invented all different kinds of things, but he did invent the first working television, and he was able to show a shadow of a little cross transmitted over a few feet. Perhaps Baird's most lasting invention was warm socks. But now we get into the real meat of the battle. Who invented television? Well, there are 3 major characters. One is Vladimir Zworykin, again, an engineer at Westinghouse, David Sarnoff, and a young high school student named Philo Farnsworth. So in 1923, Zworykin developed the first electronic television camera tube called the iconoscope. In 1926, he invented the kinescope, which was a cathode ray tube, which became the core of a receiving unit for all electronic television systems. So Zworykin was working with David Sarnoff at RCA and would become known as the father of television. Interestingly, though, and unknowingly, this high school student named Philo Farnsworth was working in his science classroom 15 years old, and he developed an invention that mimicked Zworykin's almost completely, even though they were working completely, a whole continent apart. So Farnsworth found some backers, and he went to California and got some people to support him. He applied for a patent the same year that RCA did, and he got the patent. Sarnoff was beside himself and took a trip to California with his patent attorneys and took a tour of the laboratory and wound up offering to buy all of Farnsworth's inventions. Farnsworth was smart, but though by this time, and he demanded royalties. He wouldn't give up his invention. He wanted to have royalties. Sarnoff wouldn't give royalties to anybody for anything, so they left, and hence a long series of patent litigation suits began between Farnsworth and Sarnoff and RCA. Farnsworth eventually took a trip to England to show off his invention, and when he got back, he found out that he had won the patent suit. Sarnoff recognized that he wasn't going to be able to go anywhere without Farnsworth invention, so he finally negotiated with Farnsworth and gave him royalties. The first official broadcast of television in the United States was Franklin Delano Roosevelt's talk opening the 1939 World's Fair in New York.